Shalom. This is Hadassah Batsaiwan returning with a brand new study called End Time Prophecies. Yes, finally it is here. This is part 1 called Prophecies Past, and what we're going to be looking at, we're going to be looking at the book of Matthew chapter 24, Mark chapter 13, and Luke chapter 17 and chapter 21. And the reason why I chose these 4 books, these 4 chapters in these 3 books, is because it deals with the end times events that are coming, that HaMashayach had laid out before his disciples. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about these chapters, okay? A lot of misunderstanding. Okay, let's get started. Now, when it comes to end time prophecies, we have to be fully aware of Yahweh's prophetic language in order to understand his prophecies. All right? His language is not straightforward. Remember HaMashayach, when he spoke to his disciples, he spoke to them in parables. When he was alone with them, then he explained the parables to them, because it was not given for the average man in that time to understand his parables, his teachings. There are some things they will grasp, and then there are other things that it just could not. But it was given to his disciples because they were going to be his apostles, his messengers, sent out to teach his people. He came to teach his apostles so that he can send them out to teach his people. Prophecies were given to us, Yisrael, by his servants, whether prophets or apostles. There were messengers used to relay Allahayam's words to us about what will be taking place on the earth. So everything that you see in that book, and I'm excluding the epistles of Paul, all right, were written by Allahayam's prophets and HaMashayach's apostles. All right? And they were from the house, well, not the house, but the children of Yisrael. Because when you say the house of Yisrael, we're speaking of the northern kingdom. But the apostles were primarily from the southern kingdom, because only the southern kingdom was in the land at that time when HaMashayach was there. But if you look at the Old Testament, some of those people were from the northern kingdom. All right, so the word was handed down to Yisrael for Yisrael. And only through us will the people in this world understand what is being said by Allahayam, including his prophecies. How can a Gentile understand something that wasn't written for them? It's like you are a carpenter trying to read a plumbing manual. How can you make sense of it? You can go and use a dictionary, encyclopedia, oh my goodness, my tongue. You can do all manner of research, but unless you are educated and you have the required knowledge, you're not going to understand that plumbing manual. Okay? And this is what's been happening in the world today. You have these Gentiles teaching our book, our prophecies. and attributing the prophecies of the end times to the church. They're the ones that's going to vanish. And we're going to have to stay here and endure. All prophecies were given to Yashra'al, the 12 tribes. It's for us, nobody else. No one else. It was written for us to allow them, Yashra'al, to know when their deliverance is near and what they will need to do to ensure that they are accounted worthy to escape the judgments that are about to come upon this earth. This is the reason why we are in the state that we're in today. This is the reason why we're not in our land. Because of disobedience, because of rebellion. We have rebelled, transgressed the commandments and the laws, the statutes and the judgments of Allah Hayam. He got angry and scattered us. However, he had a plan in place. He sent his son to pave the way for us to make it back into our land. To make our way back on the path that he had laid out for our forefathers that they rejected. The path of holiness, the path of righteousness. One path. And now the word that he's given to us, whether in the form of commandments or statutes, judgments or prophecies, is to prepare us as a people. Because it doesn't matter who you are or who you think you are, whether you're from the offspring of Yaakov, if you're not walking in obedience to Allah Hayam, you're not going to make it. Think of our forefathers who knew who they were, who knew the language, who knew the name of Allah Hayam. Did they make it into the kingdom? They did not. They perished in the wilderness. When you hear that word perish, it means that they were destroyed and they are going to see the lake of fire. Not all of them, but the greater majority of them. So we still need to do our due diligence in order to make it into the kingdom. So let us recap a few things in order to understand the coming end time prophecies. Yashra'al was once one kingdom made up of 12 tribes. Due to the disobedience of Shalamah, who is Solomon, this kingdom called Yashra'al was divided in two during the reign of his son Rehoboam. Ha'olah Yawan, that's the highest, the most high, made Dawud a promise that there must always be someone from his lineage sitting on the throne. There must always be a king coming from the lineage of Dawud. And that promise was kept. Because who is our eternal king? HaMashayach. He came from the lineage of Dawud. He is the lion of the tribe of Yahawada. So that promise and prophecy has been fulfilled. Rehoboam was the king over the southern kingdom called Yahawada, made up of 2.5 tribes, while Jeroboam was king over the northern kingdom called Yashra'al, made up of 9.5 tribes. And don't worry, because I know the scriptures are going to say 10 and 2. Actually, they're going to say 1 tribe for the southern kingdom and 10 tribes for the northern kingdom. But the 1 tribe that they were attributing was the tribe of Benaiah Mayam, which is the tribe of Benjamin. He already knew the tribe of Yahawada, which is Judah, is going to follow Rehoboam, because Rehoboam is from the tribe of Judah. All right? But what happened, Jeroboam, who was the king over the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes or the 9.5 tribes, disbanded the tribe of Lawi, who is the Levites. And what they did, they were split. So half the tribes of Lawai went with the southern kingdom and half stayed with the northern kingdom. But they were not performing the duties because Jeroboam was very insecure as a king, and he created his own priesthood because he created his own temples. He created 2 temples. All right? And he put the golden calf in each temple and said, these are your gods. You go and you celebrate the Passover and all the other feast days with these gods. So that's a little backdrop story behind why the scriptures would say 10, but it's actually 9.5. And why you will hear 1 tribe for the southern kingdom, but it's actually 2.5. So we look at the book of 1 Kings, chapter 9, starting from verse 4. And if you will walk before me as Dawid your father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, now this is the Most High speaking to Shalomah, to do according to all that I have commanded you, I will keep my statutes and my judgments. Then I will establish the throne of your kingdom upon Yashrael forever, as I promised to Dawid your father, saying, there shall not fail you a man upon the throne of Yashrael. And he kept that promise, he kept that prophecy. But if you shall at all turn from following me, you or your children, I will not keep my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them. Then will I cut off Yashrael out of the land which I have given them. And we see that has happened. We are not in our land. And this house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight. And when he said the house, he's talking about the temple that Shalomah built for him. He's going to just destroy it. I don't want anything. I don't want my name recorded there anymore. And Yashrael shall be a proverb and a byword among all people, which we have become. Look at us today. When people look at us, they say, oh, all you are good, all you're good for is to be a slave, a servant. You're nothing. You're nothing. Even the ones that make it big in the industries, they're still slaves. They still have to do what they're told, and they still look like puppets. They're not controlling anything. They're being controlled. They just have a lot of money because they make money to be an entertainer, to mislead the masses, mislead people, especially our people. We look at 1 Kings again, chapter 11, verse 29. And it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, take 10 pieces, for thus said Yahweh Elohim of Yashrael, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Shalomah, who is Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to you. So he did have the whole tribe of Lawai, but he disbanded them. They got upset. Half of them went with the southern kingdom, and the other half stayed with him. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant Dawad's sake, and for Yaroshalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Yasharal. So the city, Yaroshalem, was in the province of Yahawada, the province of Judah. Judah would have naturally followed Rehoboam because he was of that tribe and he was king. So they would naturally follow him. Benaiah, Maam, which is the tribe of Benjamin, always follow the tribe of the tribe of Yahawada, because they're both king tribes. So the one tribe that he's speaking of here is Banaya Mayam, which is the tribe of Benjamin that would join the tribe of Yahawada to make it actually 2 tribes. But then it became 2.5 tribes. Because, verse 33, because that they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in my eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did Dawad his father. Now what happened is Shalamah had 1,000 wives and concubines, and they were from all the other nations. And when they married him and he brought them into the kingdom, into the land, they brought their gods with them. And he allowed them to set up their gods in every province in the land. Every province, every corner, they had their gods. Okay? This is what Shalamah did. And that's why the Father warned us from day one, do not marry anyone outside of your tribes. Stay within your lineage, stay within your tribes, not your lineage. Stay within your tribes. Do not marry an outsider. Because what they're going to do, they're going to draw you away from me, because they're worshiping other gods. And you will be enticed by your spouse to worship their God, because that's the way how Satan works. It's not like you're going to be a good influence on that person and draw them to Alahayam. No, it's the opposite way, where they're going to draw you away from him. And knowing the way how we are as a people, we're easily led away from Alahayam, because we always think the grass is greener on the other side. We look at other nations killing their babies. Oh, we want to do that too. And this is what made the Father angry, because our people were living in our land in peace and prosperity, but we wanted more. Isn't that what happened? Did not tongue tied again. Did that happened in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Hawa when they had dominion, when they were in the garden. And the devil came and tempted them and said to them, you can become as gods, knowing both good and evil. And them grasping at this invisible straw lost everything. They lost their dominion. And same thing with our people, our forefathers. Grasping again at this invisible straw that Satan has placed before us, and then we lose everything. Deception. That's what it is. And Satan is a master of deception. Verse 34. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life, for Dawad my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. That's why the Father loved Dawad so much. Yes, he married a lot of women, and he had family issues. But one thing you will know about Dawad, he was a true worshiper of the Most High, and he kept his laws and his commandments and his statutes and his judgments. He kept them. Verse 35. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto you, even 10 tribes. And unto his son will I give 1 tribe, that Dawad my servant may have a light always before me in Yerushalayim, the city in which I have chosen to put my name there. Okay? These two kingdoms, the northern and the southern kingdoms, became enemies to each other naturally, because when there was a split, you know how the enemy loves when there's a division in a house. He comes in like a storm. He comes in like a storm. Because we know that the ruler over the northern kingdom was pagan. He became pagan and he led the people into pagan worship. The southern kingdom wasn't that bad at first, but they also had their issues. And when you have a pagan ruler and you have the people worshiping pagan gods, then the enemy can have a field day with those people and turn their hearts not only away from HaMashayach, but away from their own brethren. So they became enemies towards each other. Therefore, HaMashayach sent the northern kingdom away. He had to send them away. They were fighting and killing one another. And this was around 721 BCE after their Assyrian captivity. So he sent the northern kingdom away around 721 BCE after their Assyrian captivity. Keep them far apart. You know, when you have two kids fighting, right? You put one in one corner and the other in the other corner, or you send one to one room and the other one stays in another room. Keep them apart to make peace. And then you deal with them individually. Okay? That's how the Father is dealing with us, the 12 tribes. Separate. He's dealing with the southern kingdom first. We're going through our judgments. Soon he will be delivered. Then he's going to turn his attention to the northern kingdom. Right now, the northern kingdom is lost in pagan religions. And that's why these people are looking at all these other nations and pointing them out and saying, oh, that's the tribe of Gad, and this is the tribe of Asher. Looking at all these other nations around the world, Panamanians and all these different people, these native Indians, calling them our people. And they look nothing like us. Nothing like us. I already expressed my opinion about that. A lot of people that are looking to other nations to be our people because they want to marry into those nations. And they want to excuse them and bring them in by saying, oh, well, they don't really look like us, but they're still our people. All right. You hang on to that idea. At the end of the day, we're all going to see. So the southern kingdom remained in the land for a very long time afterwards because HaMashayach had to come. The first time he had to be born in the land from amongst our brethren to be counted as a part of Yisrael in order to redeem us to Ha'aba. So he had to be born through the lineage of Yisrael, and he chose the tribe of Yehoiada to come through and to enter into this world as a man, so that he can die as a man, a perfect man, for our sins and redeem us to the Father. Couldn't do it any other way. The Most High could not raise up a man to do this job because the person had to be without sin. And everyone born on this earth is born with a sin nature, starting from No, it was Cain, Cain, and Abel, and Sawat, and so on. Because of what Adam and Hawa did. When they lost their light, what did they gain? A sin nature. And that was passed on, because it's a curse, from one generation to another until it has reached us today. HaMashayach came. And even though he came through an earthly vessel by the name of Maryam, and she was a virgin, a man had not laid with her before, Yahweh did not lay with her, the Ruach HaKodesh came upon her and deposited the Son of the Most High in her womb. That's why he was born pure. He was born as a man, as a child without sin, without the sin nature. He did not have a sin nature. He passed through her birth canal so that he is now called the Son of Man. And because he is the son of Alahayam, he is also called the son of Alahayam. So he bridged that gap for us. And that's why he and only he alone could have done what he did. Because the Most High needed perfect blood, pure blood, undefiled blood to redeem us eternally. Because the blood of goats and bullocks and lambs, even though they may look perfect without blemish, was not sufficient. It was not enough. It was temporary. So HaMashayach came, man without sin, and died for us, his people. And, yes, for the handful of Gentiles that will receive him at the end of the age. But right now it's mainly for us. HaMashayach came to fulfill prophecies written down so that we, his lost sheep, could be found. We are scattered and hidden, but no longer lost. No, we're not. We're not lost anymore, but we're scattered because the shepherd came. Alahayam's promise to restore us as his people in his kingdom are what his prophecies are all about. It's restoration for the 12 tribes. Once we know who the prophecies are for, it is not for the Gentiles or the church, but for Yashraal alone. When we look at the prophecies with Yashraal in mind, then it will be clear what the prophecies are speaking to us. And when I say Yashraal, I'm not talking about the people, the squatters in our land currently. They are not the real people. I'm talking about the Negroes, the ones that were sold in slavery and been battered and persecuted and killed, and they tried to destroy us for generations, but we're still here. Try doing that with another nation. You see how quickly you can wipe them out. But we're still here because you can't get rid of us that easily. We are the chosen people. These end time prophecies have to be viewed in 3 lenses. Or lenses. Lenses, yes, correct. Past prophecies that have been fulfilled and finished, meaning they've been completed. They're done. Past prophecies that are twofold or threefold in their nature. So that means even though the first part is completed, there's still another aspect of that event that is coming that must be fulfilled again. or must be fulfilled. Not again, but must be fulfilled. And we'll see that in a later slide. Or prophecies that are yet to be fulfilled, ones that have not come yet. So a lot of the prophecies that are twofold or threefold, they were spoken at the time when the prophets spoke these prophecies, but there's still an end time attachment to those prophecies. And we see that in the book of Daniel. Okay? We see it in his book. We also see it, and we will be seeing it in the prophecies that HaMashayach spoke. By looking at the language and knowing a bit of history, and of course, who the prophecies are for, will help to determine which of the three categories end time prophecies will fit in. And well, of course, we need the Ruach HaKodesh to guide us into all truth. He is the Spirit of truth. So let's look at the prophecies fulfilled. Let's start with Matthew chapter 24. And before I get started, you will notice that I have the chapters divided. And this, I'm going to take the time to explain to you what has happened. Now, we know that originally the Bible, our word, did not have chapters and verses. Those were added. Okay? When they did that, they rearranged the chapter. They rearranged certain chapters and they rearranged the verses within the chapters. Now, we know the Bible, as it is right now, is not in chronological order. All right? So that should say something to you. But when you look at these prophecies that are spoken, this is where the confusion comes in, because you will look at it as it is in a chronological order, the events. So therefore, you'll be deceived into thinking that this needs to happen, or this hasn't happened, or this is happened already, whatever the case may be. You'll be deceived into understanding the order of events. And this is what Satan wants. This is what Satan wants. He wants us to be confused. Same thing with the book of Revelation, from chapter 7 all the way through to chapter 19. Chapter 19 onward is correct. Chapter 1 to 6 is correct. But the other chapters in between are all mixed up. And not only are the chapters mixed up, but the verses are mixed up too. They're mixed up. And that's why when you hear people breaking down these verses, these chapters, it's sheer confusion. All right? Absolute confusion. Now, simultaneously, I have put the Matthew, Mark, and Luke together with the bits and pieces that I have extracted from those books, so that you can see exactly what I'm saying. So let's start with Matthew chapter 24, verse 1. And HaMashayach went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. And HaMashayach said unto them, see you not all these things? Meaning, look at the temples. Look at the buildings of the temple. Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Okay? What is that he's speaking about? He's speaking about the temple in Jerusalem that will be destroyed. And it was destroyed in 70 AD. So that prophecy that he's speaking, that's why I put it first. It was destroyed in 70 AD. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? Meaning, when will the destruction of the temple be? And what shall be the sign of your coming? Now, whether they're talking about him coming to regather his people, as he has spoken about, or his second coming as king on the earth. And at the end of the world, when will it all be finished? And HaMashayach answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. And that's exactly what we're experiencing today, what's happening today. There's a lot of deception about the end time prophecies. And the first thing you have to be aware of is not to be deceived. The temple that he's talking about in Jerusalem, the prophecy that he spoke about where there will not be left one stone upon another, is the destruction of the temple, which happened in 70 AD. So keep that in mind. So now we jump from there, from verse 4, because from verse 5, which we will see later on, does not fit in this beginning of the events. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, and I have an entire, I think it's part 3, will explain what this is all about, the abomination of desolation. All right? It deserved its own lesson, because you can't just glaze over that. Because that too is the most misunderstood, misinformed prophecy for teaching that is out there. All right? So when you shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel, who is Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. And here is what HaMashayach is saying. Whoso reads, let him understand. Because many people will read it, but not necessarily understand what he's saying. Then let them who be in Yahweh flee into the mountains. And I want to pause there, okay? Because we're not in our land right now. Think about it. We are not in our land right now. When we get to our land, and it will be the northern kingdom, not us, the southern kingdom yet. The northern kingdom, when they make it into their land, they're going to dwell there safely. No one will make them afraid. They will never ever have to leave there again, because only the righteous will make it in. So this cannot be something for the future. This has to be something when HaMashayach spoke it. Yes, it was the future, but for us reading it today, it is not something that's coming. It's already done. Because we're not in our land. And once we get back to our land, we'll never have to leave ever, ever, ever again. So this prophecy that HaMashayach is speaking about, it has to do with 70 AD. When the Romans came and besieged Jerusalem, and over 1 million of our people perished. Well, I shouldn't say perished. They died. They were killed. All right? This has already happened. The abomination of desolation, when you see in part 3, you will see that it is threefold in its nature. But I don't want to give out right now. Let's just focus on the sections here. Verse 17, let him who is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him who is in the field return to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray you that your flight not be in the winter, neither on Yom HaShabbat. And this was the prophecy that should have been next. Okay? After he was speaking about the destruction of the temple, then came the destruction of Yahawada. The near destruction of Yahawada. The tribe, the house of Yahawada. Okay? So this is completed. I have here the one in white. Well, we'll see it later on. I'll explain why I have the different colors. Mark chapter 13 verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives over against the temple, Shamaowan, which is Peter, and Yaakov, which is James, and Yawachanan, which is John, and Anadarai, who is Andrew, asked him privately. So these four asked him privately, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? And HaMashayach answered them and began to say, same thing as in the book of Matthew. But when you shall see, and we skip from verse 5 to verse 14. Alright? But when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Dana, Yaal, and you wouldn't have but there. You will say, when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Dana, Yaal the prophet, standing where it ought not, let him that reads understand. Then let them that be in Yahawada flee to the mountains. And let him that is on the housetop not go down into the house, neither enter therein to take anything out of his house. Why? You gotta go. You gotta run for the hills, because the Roman soldiers were coming to destroy our people. Verse 16, and let him that is in the field not turn back again for to take up his garment. But woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. And pray that your flight be not in winter, because winter is a very hard time, full of rain and is cold. For in those days, listen to this, for in those days shall be affliction, such as was not from the beginning of the creation, which Allah Hayam created unto this time, neither shall be. So they attribute this to the time of Jacob's troubles. But we know we have gone through some severe persecutions throughout our history. But what happened in 70 AD, they besieged the temple, and they built, the Roman soldiers, they built a wall to stop the people, Yahawada, from being able to exit. So there was no food. There was no food. The people were starving. They ended up having to eat their own babies. And even though they were fighting against the Romans, when they tried to infiltrate the wall or penetrate and come in to the city, there were insurrection even amongst our people. They were fighting amongst each other. The rebels and the zealots and whatever the case may be. They were fighting against each other, even though the Romans were coming after them. So it was a horrible, terrible time for our people. Some places say it was 1,100,000 people that were killed. All right? This was a horrible thing for our people. And has anything like this happened where we had to eat our own babies? So that's why we have this statement. And yes, things are going to get horrible again. But the people that have to face The judgments that are coming is because of their rebellion. Well, these people were being judged as well. Yes, that's why the Roman armies came against them, because of their rebellion. You see, it goes back to being disobedient. But what I'm saying is that what happened in 70 AD was a horrible, horrible experience for our people. And that's why it says here, for in those days shall be affliction, such as was not from the beginning of the creation, which Allah Hayam created unto this time. Neither shall be. So this wasn't even the time of Jacob's trouble. It was a horrible time for our people. So when we go now to Mark chapter 13, verse 9. And this part you will not find in Matthew or in Luke. That's why it's on its own. Take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to the councils, and in the synagogues you shall be beaten, and you shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. Now, does this sound familiar? When you read the book of Acts, you notice that the apostles were delivered up to the councils and to the synagogues, and they were beaten, and they were put in prison. For what? Why? Because they were preaching about HaMashayach. All right? So this too has been fulfilled, because this has to do with the persecution of the apostles. We're the synagogues today that they're going to drag us in and beat us there. Listen, they're not going to waste any time beating us. It's going to be beheading. That's it. Either you take the juice and worship the beast, or you'll be beheaded. There'll be no more discussions, no testimonies given, nothing. Either you say yes or no. If you say no, we're going to chop your head off. That's it. So Mark chapter 13, verse 9 and 11 has been done, was fulfilled through the apostles and the disciples of HaMashayach. Verse 11. And we'll see why verse 10 was taken out. Not really taken out, but moved. Okay? But when they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what you shall speak, neither do you premeditate. But whatsoever shall be given to you in that hour that you speak, for it is not you that speak, but Ruach HaKadosh. This is what happened with his apostles and his disciples. Remember when Stephen was brought before the council and he preached a marvelous message, a testimony of HaMashayach, starting from the beginning of our people to the point where he, present time where he was living. And it pierced the hearts of those people, those Pharisees, because he was not speaking his own words, but it was the Ruach HaKadosh who spoke through him. Same thing with Peter. Same thing with James and John. All of them. It was the Ruach HaKadosh who spoke through them. All right? But in these last days, there'll be no speaking. There'll be none of us standing up and proclaiming to these heathens that have us in prison, or have our people in prison. Hopefully it will not be you or me. But I don't need to hope, because I'm not planning on being here. Seriously, I'm not planning on being here. But those who have remained because of their disobedience, and they've changed their hearts, and you've been in prison, you only have one word to say, either yes or no. They don't want to hear anything coming from your lips about HaMashayach. Yahawashawa'o, HaMashayach. They don't want to hear your testimony. They're all the devil's people now. They're fully possessed with demons. You think they want to hear what you have to say? No. So all this is Mark chapter 13, verse 9 and verse 11, completed with his apostles and his disciples. Now we go to Luke chapter 17, verse 31. Starting from verse 31. The book of Luke is so confused. It is all over the place. So if you notice, it starts at verse 31. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop, and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away, and he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Lot's wife looked back. He said, don't go back. Don't even look back. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. You're going to die, but make sure you die in HaMashayach, proclaiming HaMashayach. You will live again. But if you do not confess him, and you submit to the enemy, and you just to save your life, you will lose it. Now we go to Luke chapter 21, verse 7. And they asked him, saying, Adawan, but when shall these things be, and what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? Talking about the temple again, where he said there will not be one stone left unturned. Verse 20, and when you shall see, as it went from verse 7 to verse 20, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. That is the desolation that makes, that's the abomination that makes desolate. And I'll explain all of that later. Jerusalem compassed with armies, that had happened in 70 AD. It happened other times too. It happened at the time of I believe it's 167 BCE. It happened in the time of Nebuchadnezzar, when he came, the Babylonian king. It happened with the Assyrians. It happened several times, but this is speaking specifically of 70 AD. Just look at the language, because Jerusalem was surrounded with the Roman armies. But you do not see this, the pink on the line portion here that is highlighted. You will not find that in the first two chapters, which is Matthew chapter 24 or Mark chapter 13. This is something new. But it is not wrong, because Jerusalem was surrounded by the Roman armies. That's why they could not come out to get food. I think they couldn't even get water. But how we know that it's 70 AD? Let's read on, verse 21. Then let them who are in Yahweh flee to the mountains. Remember Matthew chapter 24 and Mark 13 express this same prophecy about Yahweh fleeing to the mountains. And we know that they fled in 70 AD. That was the last time our people fled from our land. We had left our land in 70 AD and we have not been back there since. So this is not a future prophecy. It is completed. And let them who are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. So people, he was warning the people, those of you that are in different countries, don't even bother to try to come into Jerusalem. And what had happened, the Roman armies waited until Passover to surround the city. So people that were coming from different countries were trapped in the city, couldn't leave. And there were a lot of people. Like I said, over 1 million people died. Verse 22, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. This was the wrath of HaMashayach. And look, we have gone through our judgments, our curses. Come on. Do you think when he brings us back to our land, he's going to curse us again? He's going to unleash his wrath upon us again? When he says in his word that only the righteous will walk thereon, the highway. The redeemed shall walk there. He's only bringing the righteous remnant into the land. And we've looked at that. When you go to my other teachings, you'll see that in the second Exodus, into the wilderness, the chariots of Yashraal, all these explain to you that when we enter into our land, the final time, it is the last time, and we will never have to leave again. So these prophecies here have been fulfilled in 70 AD. Not to happen again. Well, a lot of people, they look to the people in the land right now, the fakers, and because they deny HaMashayach, they're attributing this prophecy to them, thinking that they're us, but they're not us. And that's why many people believe that these prophecies have not happened yet. And Yahuwah compassed with armies, they're calling it Psalms 83, Ezekiel 38 and 39, Gog and Magog, and those kind of things. But those, when you read those scriptures carefully, it never says anything about surrounding Yahuwah. Gog and Magog is going to be in the mountains of Yashraal, and that's where they're going to die. They never will make it into the city, and they're going to kill one another. All right? But they will never surround Yahuwah again. No armies are going to surround Yahuwah again. But there are people that call themselves watchmen and watchwomen. They're looking for the Psalm 83 war, quote unquote. Psalm 83 is not even about a war. All right? No, it's not. That's why I'm saying you need a Ruach HaKodesh to help you to understand the prophecies, and you need to be Yashraal to understand the prophecies. If you're Gentiles, if you're a Gentile, you're not going to understand it. All right? Absolutely not going to understand it. Now we go to verse 24, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. Is that going to happen again for us? We've already done that so many times already, and he brings us back to our land, and we're going to be cut down by the edge of the sword, which means war, and be led away captives again into all nations. So after he brings us out from the nations, gathers us from the nations, then he's going to bring war again against us and send us back into the nations. Does that make sense? Absolutely not. This has been fulfilled. And Yahuwah shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled, because we know the people in our land right now are Gentiles. Okay? And it's being trodden down. And so he's jumped down now, same book, Luke chapter 21 to verse 12. And before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues. Actually, this is similar to what Mark said about being persecuted. Okay? So my mistake. It was also repeated in the book of Luke. All right? My error. I apologize. And delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Do you think that's going to happen again? Where we're going to be brought before kings to give our testimony? All right. Verse 13, and they shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate before what you shall answer. And now when I say about being brought before people, I'm not talking about the ones that have escaped with the chariots, the southern kingdom. I'm not talking about the ones that made it into the land, which is the northern kingdom. The rebels that have been left behind, some of them will convert back to Allah. They're going to believe in him, believe in HaMashayach. But it's too late. They will be persecuted unless they can hide themselves, which I doubt very much, because they're going to die. They're going to be martyred. And there will be no testimony given. Like I said, either you say yes to the system or no. And if you say no, your head is coming off. You're chopping their heads off. They don't want to hear your words. So these verses are or were for the apostles and disciples of their times. Now this is present time that HaMashayach was warning his disciples about. Verse 15, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay or nor resist. And you shall be betrayed by parents and brethren and kinsfolk and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And I have that on the line for a reason, because that's going to happen again. That is going to happen again. We will be betrayed. Whoever is left behind, and you're going to be looking for help from friends and family, you're going to be betrayed. You're going to be betrayed by your friends and by your family. Verse 17, and you shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. That is going to happen again too. All right? So remember, I told you in the beginning that some prophecies will be passed and they've been fulfilled, not to come back again. And then there's some prophecies that have passed and it had happened in the past, but it will still happen again in the future. Well, these ones are the ones that are on the line. It's going to happen again in the future, right? Betrayal, because the love of many will wax cold. Verse 18, but they shall not a hair of your head perish. In your patience possess your souls. And when he says perish, meaning you're not going to hell. He didn't say that you're not going to die. He didn't say that you're not going to, well, let me explain that carefully. What he's stating here, that even though you're going to endure all this persecution and you will die, but you will not perish. All right? When you hear the word perish, it means that you will go to the lake of fire. But someone who dies in righteousness, they will live again. So that's why he said, not one hair of your head will perish. You're not going to, you're not even a strand of your hair is going to see the hell's fire. In your patience possess your souls. Just be patient about it. Endure. Okay? After the fall of the temple, so now I'm going to explain to you a few things. I'm going to give you some history here from encyclopedia.com. Getting all tongue-tied with that word. After the fall of the temple, Titus entered the Holy of Holies. His drawn sword in his hand slashed the parquet, which is the curtain of the veil, and spreading out a scroll of the law, had intercourse with two harlots he had brought in. So when HaMashayach spoke about the abomination that makes desolate, he was speaking about Titus. When Dana Yael was speaking of the desolation that makes the abomination that makes desolate, he was speaking of Antiochus Epiphanes, who put a pig in the Holy of Holies and slaughter it and offer it to his god Zeus. So twice this prophecy was fulfilled. Twice. And there will be a third time. Oh yeah, it's not finished yet. It's not finished yet. Okay? So this is what Titus did. That crazy man. In fact, they were all crazy. So he had sex with prostitutes in the Holy of Holies. That's an abomination. He was an abomination. Titus attributed the bloodstains on his sword to his having slain HaMashayach. He claimed that he killed the Most High. Some sources, however, pointed out that in reality it was either the blood of the daily sacrifices or of those of the Day of Atonement. He might have used his sword to hack away at the lamb or whatever that was sitting there. Who knows? Who knows where the blood on his sword came from? Now, they even killed the prostitutes after he was finished with them. Offered them to his god, Zeus. Titus began to revile and blaspheme Elohim, boasting that he had vanquished the king in his own palace. That's why he was called the abomination that makes desolate. He was an abomination. And he made the Holy of Holies desolate. He next collected all the vessels of the temple, placed them in a net, and sailed for Rome. After he embarked, a violent gale blew, and Titus claimed that Elohim possessed power only over water, since he smitten the generation of the flood and Parao by water. So he thought that, okay, he only has power over water. Thereupon, Hashadai caused the sea to cease from its raging. When Titus landed, a tiny gnat entered his nose and fed on his brain for 7 years, growing in size until it caused his death. When he died, the physician opened his skull and found a creature resembling a sparrow weighing 2 selas, according to another account. A young dove, 2 pounds in weight. Its beak was of brass and its claws of iron. So, whether that is true or not, I wouldn't disbelieve it. The man was extraordinarily evil. Extraordinarily evil. And what he did in the Holies of Holies, do you think that Elohim will be pleased with that? No, he caused a bird to grow in his brain. He was a bird brain. Encyclopedia.com. The Romans brought idols into the temple and offered sacrifices to it. They took the golden vessels of the temple and killed everyone they found. Before the fire consumed the temple completely, Titus entered the Holy of Holies and performed the most despicable acts. And this is from Chabad.org. So again, confirming the history that Titus was the abomination that makes desolate. Later on, I'm going to show you about Antiochus, but right now he's not relevant. All right. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. He is written down here. I thought I had him in part 3. I'm so sorry. With the exception of the white underlined parts, these prophecies have been fulfilled. So all the highlighted white underlined parts some have been fulfilled already to be fulfilled again. In other words. But the other highlighted parts were fulfilled and will not be happening again. I will explain about the abomination that makes desolate in part 3. Now we're going to go to the history of Jerusalem, Wikipedia. During its long history, Jerusalem has been attacked 52 times, captured and recaptured 42 times, besieged 23 times, and destroyed twice. Now tell me, will the Most High cause it to happen again the third time? Don't worry about the fact that people believe the third temple is going to be built. Who is it going to be built for if those people in the land are not us, the people in the book. Who are they building a temple for? All right. They're building it for their gods. And whether it will be allowed to be built or not, everything in that land is going to be destroyed, including the people. The few that are left are going to have to go back. They're going to flee back to their original countries. It says that in the word. Yarawashalam was surrounded by the Roman armies in 70 AD, which brought to conclusion this prophecy of fleeing to the mountains. Many rapture hopefuls are using these prophecies to declare when they will be taken up. But this is in great error. If you know who the prophecies are for, then their conclusions will not make sense. When you listen to these people, knowing who you are, it doesn't make sense. All right? We now know that when Dana Ya'al warned about the abomination that makes desolate, it was in reference to Antiochus IV Epiphanes, who slaughtered a pig in the sanctuary in 167 BCE. Now we see this performance being repeated a second time in 70 AD with Titus, prophesied by HaMashayach. But there is a third fulfillment of this prophecy which started more than 2 years ago, hint, hint, and is currently taking place. It's that juice. But I'll explain more about it. We see that the abomination that makes desolate is a prophecy and threefold in its nature. It's coming again, the final time. It is vitally important to know which prophecies have been fulfilled and which ones have a double or triple nature. When we know this information plus know who the prophecies are for, then we cannot go wrong in misunderstanding what Allah is speaking to us. Prophecies become complicated due to the person's misinterpreting, misunderstanding, and henceforth misinforming others of things that will come to pass when they won't, or ignoring what is to come. Stop listening to these false teachers. Jerusalem had survived an Assyrian siege in 701 BCE by Sennacherib, unlike Samaria, the capital of the northern kingdom of Yashraal, that had fallen some 20 years previously. All right, this is from Wikipedia. So we know that Jerusalem had gone through so many sieges in the past. And after the two witnesses come and clean our land, it is not going to happen again. No more sieges, no more wars in our land, except in the mountains of Yashraal, where the Most High is going to destroy Gog and Magog. And they're going to destroy each other. There'll be no more warring on our part. The siege of Yarawashalam in 597 BCE led to the city overcome by the Babylonians, who then took the young king Jehoiakim into Babylonian captivity, together with most of the aristocracy. Zedekiah, who had been placed on the throne by Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, rebelled, and Nebuchadnezzar, who at the time 587/586 BCE, remember they go down in numerical order towards 0. So it's 587 to 586, and then after that will be 585 until it reach 0, and then they start the year 1 again. This is Gregorian, this is demonic, this is not correct, and that's why we don't even know the correct year that we're in today. And they did that on purpose because they know the prophecy of when the Most High is going to come for his people. In fact, they don't really know the exact date or time. That's why the Most High said of that day or hour, no man knows, not even the angels, not the son of Allah, only Abba himself. All right? And this is the reason why he does not have that stated, the day or the hour. But we know the season. And they know the season when we'll be taken. That's why they're bumping up things faster and faster. Every day you're looking at the news headlines and things are getting in fact, quickly, progressively worse. Worse and worse and worse. The birth pangs are quickening. Because the birth thing, which is the chariots coming for the southern kingdom, is about to happen. All right? And then once we're taken, the northern kingdom will be awakened. They're not awake yet. So let's go back. Who at the time of 586 BCE was the ruler of a most powerful empire, recaptured the city, killed Zedekiah's descendants in front of him, and plucked out Zedekiah's eye so that it would be the last thing he ever saw. The Babylonians then took Zedekiah into captivity along with prominent members of Jehoiada. The Babylonians then burnt the temple, destroying the city's walls, and appointing Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, as governor over Jehoiada. After 52 days of rule, Ishmael, son of Netaniah, a surviving descendant of Zedekiah, assassinated Gedaliah after encouragement of Baalis, the king of Ammon. Imagine taking advice from the Ammonites and kill your own. Some of the remaining population of Jehoiada, fearing vengeance of Nebuchadnezzar, fled to Matsarayam. That's what our people always do. We flee to Egypt or Africa. Well, Egypt is in Africa, but Africa proper. During the Persian period, after several decades of captivity in Babylon and the Achaemenid conquest of Babylonia, Cyrus II of Persia allowed the Jews to return to Jehoiada and rebuild the temple. The books of Ozariah, who is Ezra, and Nehemiah recorded that the construction of the second temple was finished in the 6th year of Darius the Great, which is 516 BCE, following which Artaxerxes the first sent Ozariah and then Nehemiah to rebuild the city's walls and to govern Jehoiada province within the Ibernary satrapy. Then there was the Hellenistic period when Jehoiada fell under Greek control, then finally under Roman control in 37 BCE. Now this is the order of our enslavement, punishment, captivity, whatever you want to call it. This is the order of all the things that we have been through as a people. And you want to tell me it's going to happen again? Absolutely not. When we get back to our land, it's going to happen again. Then our Father is not a merciful Father. Because if the ones that are living in the land will be the righteous remnant, for what reason will he want to bring judgment against us again? We've done it. It's completely fulfilled. So that's why I say these false teachers are teaching the wrong things. They're looking to the people that are already there. Yes, they're going to be judged, but not us. Once we get into our land, it's done. It's completed. So let's go back to the history. We almost finished here. Then finally under Roman control in 37 BCE. Therefore, when HaMashayach was born, they were still under Roman control. As you may well notice, when he was sent to Pontius Pilate to be convicted. So Pontius Pilate was a Roman. In 66 CE, this is after the birth of HaMashayach, the Jewish population rebelled against the Roman Empire in what is now known as the First Jewish-Roman War or Great Revolt. So this is what started the Roman army surrounding Yerushalayim in 70 AD. All right. Roman legions under future Emperor Titus reconquered and subsequently destroyed much of Yerushalayim in 70 CE. This is 70 AD, in other words. In April of 70 AD, 3 days before Passover, the Roman army started besieging Jerusalem, meaning that there's other information there that wasn't quite relevant. Over 1 million people perished in the siege, and that word, in the siege and the subsequent fighting. I don't like that word perish because not all of them were rebels, but 1 million people died in the siege. Many perished, but not all. The history of Jerusalem, the history of Jerusalem, and the siege of Jerusalem, Wikipedia. Now, this is me speaking. The southern kingdom is due to be gathered by chariots any day now, while the northern kingdom will start their second exodus into the wilderness, heading towards the land of Yashrael. When they will start their exodus, it will be after the sixth seal, okay? And that will happen soon after we leave this place. Soon after. Father wants to bring an ending to the evil events in this world. He wants to bring his judgments, and most importantly, he wants to bring his people home. Enough is enough. By the time they arrive, the two witnesses, let me see what I say here. By the time they arrive, the two witnesses, oh boy, I have a mistake here. The two witnesses would have cleansed the land of the pagan worship and abominations in the land. I left that bit out. I'm so sorry. By the time the northern kingdom makes it into the land, they will have been purged of their rebels, for only the righteous remnant will enter into the land. Then they will dwell in safety until HaMashayach returns for his millennial reign. So let me explain how that is going to happen. He will leave none behind. I know people believe when they hear this scripture, when he will leave none behind, that it means simply that everyone is going to leave and everyone will make it into the land of Yashrael. That's not so. The rebels that will remain behind will be destroyed by HaMashayach himself. Oh yeah, he will plague them. Right? He will plague them. Just like what he did in Matzarayim, when the children of Yashrael were warned by Masha to get ready to leave the land, some rebelled. And the ones that rebelled against Masha and the word of Alahayam to get yourselves ready to get out of Matzarayim, in the 3 days of darkness, the Most High plagued them and killed them. And so the children of Yashrael, because there was still light in their camp, but there was no light anywhere else. Everything came to a standstill in Matzarayim. No one can move. No one can get up. Everyone stood wherever he was standing when the darkness came. That's where he stood for 3 days. All right? But Yashrael, what they did during those 3 days of darkness, they went and buried those that were plagued, that were killed by Alahayam, because they spoke out against Masha and they spoke out against Alahayam. They did not want to leave Matzarayim to go into the wilderness. And the Most High said, I'm not leaving any behind. So he destroyed them. And it was a lesson to the ones that may have thought, maybe I should stay too. But no, I'm not going to stay. I'm going to go. And they buried them during the 3 days of darkness because Alahayam did not want the Matzarayim to see that he had to kill some of his own people. It was done in secret. So it's going to happen again. Those who decide to remain behind, he's going to destroy them. And the rebels that leave, he's going to destroy them all the way to the land. So that by the time they reach the land, only the righteous will enter in. There'll be no more rebels. No more rebels. This is the order of events that will take place, and because Yashrael, the 12 tribes, would have endured their judgments, there will be no more judgments for them to have to endure. So we'll be in third heaven. They'll be in the land. There'll be no more judgments for us. The rest of the judgments will be for those here on the earth. All the remaining judgments will be upon the earth, the Gentile nations, and our rebellious brethren will have to endure the judgments of Elohim. There will be no more wars against Yashrael. However, Gog and Magog and their confederates will be lured by Elohim into the mountains of Yashrael, and there they will war against each other, destroying each other. This is the final blood judgment set against these Gentile nations that enslaved us and shed our blood. They shedded our blood. The land needs blood to be atoned for our blood that was shed. They will not be fighting on the northern kingdom's part, as they will dwell in safety. So they're gonna watch and see all this destruction happening, but it's not gonna come near them, and they're not gonna have to take part in it. The only thing they're gonna do is bury the bodies and collect the wood. Jeremiah 23, chapter 23, verse 3, and I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. Now, does that sound that when he brings the remnant in, that he is going to destroy them again? Come on. Verse 4, and I will set up shepherds over them who shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, said Yahweh. And he's speaking about the house of Yashrael, which happened to be the northern kingdom, the 9.5 tribes. Behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that I will raise unto Dawid a righteous branch, and the king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Yahweh shall be saved, and Yashrael shall dwell safely. So we are already saved, and Yashrael will be dwelling safely in the land. And this is his name whereby he shall be called, Yahweh our righteousness. Therefore, behold, days come, said Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh lives, who brought up Habanai, the children of Yashrael, out of the land of Matzarayim, but Yahweh lives, who brought up and who led the seed of the house of Yashrael. This is the northern kingdom, out of the north country, and from all countries where I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. Okay, this is the prophet Jeremiah speaking, the Ruach HaKodesh speaking through him to his people, the northern kingdom. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 21, and say unto them, thus said Yahweh Elohim, behold, I will take Habanai Yashrael from among the heathen where they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. Ezekiel chapter 38, from verse 10. Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, it shall come to pass that at the same time shall things come into your mind, and you shall think an evil thought. So now he's speaking to Gog and Magog. And I didn't include the entire chapter because I've already covered this in a previous study. It would be the second Exodus into the wilderness. But I'm doing this just so you can see that the northern kingdom will be dwelling safely in the land. There'll be no more wars, no more armies surrounding Jerusalem. They wouldn't even need to pick up a sword or anything. They will be at peace. Verse 11, and you shall say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, because the Most High is going to surround them with his glory. You think that anyone can just walk into the land? He will strike them down. Verse 12, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn your hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited. Like I said, whatever is in that land right now, he's going to make it a desolation. He's going to literally destroy it, but then he's going to cultivate it again. All right? And upon the people that are gathered out of the nations who have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land. So these people, when they leave the lands of their captivity, wherever they've been living, in the North Country and the other countries where they were driven to, they're going to be leaving with some things, but all along the way, they're going to be collecting stuff. They're going to be collecting their animals, their cattle, their flocks. All right? When they enter into the land, they're going to have substance. Great substance that they've picked up all along the way. It's going to be left for them, just like that. They're not coming into the land empty. They're going to be coming into the land with silver and gold and flocks and cattle. Lots and lots and lots of things they're going to have. And that's why these armies, they look to the land and realize, hey, these people are living there. Not only are they living happily and in peace, but they got a lot of stuff and we want it. But it is the Most High that puts that thought in their heads, because he wants to draw them into the mountains. And they're going to come in the way of the mountains because they're coming from the north. And that's where they're going to die. Right up in there in the mountains. All right. Verse 13. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto you, are you come to take a spoil? Have you gathered your company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, and take away the cattle and the goods, and to take a great spoil? Are you coming to spoil these people? You want to come and take and make them slaves again? All right. Verse 14. Therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto Gog, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, in that day when my people of Yashrael dwells safely. Shall you not know it? Of course they're going to know, because there's destruction everywhere else. These people with their technology, they have no more technology. They got to ride horses. They have no more guns. They have to use bows and arrows and spears. No more technology after the sixth seal. I just saw something that's come out, but we know that this has been happening already. Because when you see them proclaiming this new invention, you know that it's been done already for the last 30, 40, even 50 years. They now have artificial wombs where they can make babies in these artificial wombs. We know that they've been doing this already. All right? Now, what does that have to do with the end times? Because Satan wants to build his army. And when you have a child that did not come the natural way that the Most High has ordained, these children that are going to be created, well, invented, not created, invented by this technology, are going to be perfect vessels for satanic possession. But don't worry, the Most High, by the sixth seal, is going to destroy it all. All of it is going to be done. All their technology is going to be finished. Because if you read what it says, even the heavens are going to be shaken. The heavens and the earth is going to be shaken. Destroy everything. All right. Verse 15, and you shall come from your place out of the north parts, you and many people with you, all them riding upon horses. They're not driving fancy equipment, armored trucks. All right, they're coming on horses. A great company, a mighty army. And you shall come up against my people, Yashrael, as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days. That's prophetic language, meaning the end times. And I will bring you against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in you, O Gog, before their eyes. Thus saith Yahweh HaMashayach, are you he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants the prophets of Yashrael, who prophesied in those days many years that I would bring you against them? So you see, the reason why the Most High gave his prophets, Yashrael, remember I said that in the beginning, prophecies were given only to the servants of Elohim who were from Yashrael. No other nation, no other people received the prophecies. And it's for no other people but Yashrael. And the Most High gave prophecies from way back then for the end times, so that when we see the prophecies being fulfilled, then we know without a shadow of doubt that Elohim is Elohim. And his power is great. Who else can prophesy something thousands of years ago for it to happen in the present time? Thousands of years later. Only he can do this. With precision. All right? With precision. Verse 18. And it shall come to pass at the same time, when Gog shall come against the land of Yashrael, said Yahweh Elohim, that my fury shall come up to my face. He's going to remember the wickedness that they've done. And he's going to allow his wrath to be unleashed upon these people. Verse 19, for in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Yashrael. A shaking not to destroy anything, but a shaking to announce him, his presence in the land, and to bring about destruction against these people. Verse 20, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. It is because his presence will be felt worldwide. But he's not going to bring any destruction to his own people or in the land. But he's going to cause it to shake. And that shaking is going to spread. You know how an earthquake can be one place, but it starts to, the ripple effect, it spreads outward. And as far and wide as it can go. It's the same thing. The shaking is going to start in Yashrael, but it's going to spread worldwide. And people will know it's because the Most High has come down to deal with these people himself. Even the fish in the sea and the fowls in the heaven, every creature and people except Yashrael. All right? He can do it. Just like he can cause darkness throughout the whole world, except in Goshen where his people were. He can do anything he wants to do. He has the ultimate of power. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall. And those are not the mountains of Yashrael. All right? This is what's going to happen around the world. He's not going to destroy his land again now that his people are living there. He's going to destroy the people that are in the mountains, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. This is not in Yashrael. This is in the other countries that will feel the rippling effect of that shaking. It's going to be like a massive earthquake again. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, said Yahweh Elohim. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. So there'll be no fighting with these people. The northern kingdom, they're not going to go out to fight against them. They're going to turn against each other. And this has happened before in history. All right? Remember Jehoshaphat? Okay. And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood. And I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain and great stones and fire and brimstone. He's going to let them have it. They're going to get it all together up in those mountains. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. So now you have a choice to make. Choose to worship me or choose not to. You've seen my power, right? You've seen what I've done to these armies of Gog and Magog. Millions of people that came against my people in their own land. They're not bothering them, but they want to come and take away what they had and take my people into captivity again. Ain't going to happen again. I want them to come. I want them to come. That's what Yahweh said. I want them to come because I'm going to destroy them. Now, looking at these prophecies that have been fulfilled, with the exception of a few that will come to pass again, the abomination that makes desolate, specifically, the persecution for his people at the hand of family members and friends, and the imprisonment and subsequent death to those who have the testimony of Yahushua or HaMashayach. These we have been warned by HaMashayach when he spoke to his disciples on the Mount of Olives. So these are going to happen again. It is not a mystery why these verses were rearranged, like most of our book, which was changed, chapters taken out or rearranged. It leads us to a totally different conclusion, which looks nothing like what I am sharing with you. For example, the teaching out there amongst especially the Gentiles, that call themselves the church, that Israel is already in their land awaiting their judgment. There's a war that's coming that will cause them to be scattered again. A third temple will be built again to satisfy the 7-year peace treaty with them, the restoration of the animal sacrifices for it to be suddenly halted halfway through the 7 years of peace. The anti-Messiah will come and plant himself in the Holy of Holies, making himself like a god, which is the coming abomination that makes desolate. Now, all these they're all wrong. They're all lies. This is deception. Because there'll be no more, those people in the land will not be building a third temple onto our Alahayam. If a temple is being made or being built, it will be to their gods, and it's coming down. It's coming down. Everything in that land is coming down. It's going to be made a desolation again. Every building will be coming down. Everything will be coming down. All right. Now, looking at these false teachings in a snapshot only confirm how deceived many people are. Many Gentiles believe that they will be spared the coming judgments because they're the church, the bride of their Christ. How deceived is that? We, the people of the book, if you listen to the rest of the previous slides that I've spoken and shown you, where we have been persecuted and enslaved for so many generations because of our disobedience to Alahayam. What makes them think that they're going to escape? If we had to endure our judgments, what makes them think that they're so special that they don't have to endure anything? I was reading a comment in one of these people's channels, and the guy proudly stated, I'm sitting here having a cup of coffee and eating a ham sandwich, and I was a little disgusted by that. Right? Waiting for the rapture. And I'm thinking, are these people for real? these people really serious when they think that they're going to be raptured and taken out of here to escape the judgments? When the word is absolutely clear about what the Most High is expecting from us, whether it is from the 12 tribes of Yashrael or the Gentiles that he will allow in. All right, let me just finish this and then I'll conclude with my thought. This indeed is sheer folly and deception, which will cause many of these Gentiles' hearts to fail them when they realize the truth. They haven't seen anything yet, and judgment is coming for every single one of them. All right? They think that all they need to do is call on Jesus, say a sinner's prayer, and that's it. They don't have to do anything else. They can eat whatever they want to eat. They can do whatever they want to do because the laws and the commandments were for the Jews. That's what they say. The Jewish people, the Israelites. We don't have to obey those commandments because they were not for us. Paul says in his epistles that we don't have, because we are Gentiles, we don't have to obey those commandments. Well, I'm paraphrasing, so don't hit me. But they're using Paul's epistles to excuse their rebellion, that they don't have to obey the laws that were given to Yashrael, and yet they want the inheritance that is due for Yashrael. And things like this makes me burn. It makes me burn. Because who do you think you are that you can do whatever you want to do, live however you want to live, and all you have to do is say a sinner's prayer and you're good? But you see, when you serve a false deity by the name of Jesus Christ, who looks like them, by the way, then you will believe anything. You see, these kinds of people are privilege-minded. And you know another thing that I've been hearing from them that burns me as well? After almost 3 years of them having to deal with what is happening in the world, now it's on their doorstep, all right? Hear them talking. We want to be raptured because I am tired of this evil. I'm tired of living here on this earth. I just want to go home, and I want to go home to heaven to be with Jesus because I am tired of this world. Only 3 years of things happening around them, coming ever so much closer to their doorstep, compared to the thousands of years that our people have suffered at their forefathers' hand. Thousands of years of us having been killed and persecuted because of our skin color. Thousands of years compared to the 3 years that now is come back to bite them in the behind. And they're tired after 3 years? Try being persecuted for thousands of years. You are not ready to be tired yet. You now need to see judgment. We, the offspring of our forefathers who have rebelled against Allah, have been living in captivity. We were born in captivity. And we've had to endure because of our forefathers' rebellion. Then our history was wiped clean. So then we became Gentiles. And until HaMashayach revealed to us through his Ruach HaKodesh who we are, then we realized we never felt like we fitted in anyway in the church. So it makes sense that we are the people of the book. Don't fit in anywhere, with the exception of the few that sell out and go marry into other nations so that they can white out their heritage, their color. After all that we've been through, you want to take what belongs to us so that we can now be in peace after thousands of years of being persecuted. And you, only 3 years that you've had to see a tiny bit of what we've had to endure. And you're complaining. You haven't seen nothing yet. You have not seen anything yet. And all these ones saying, oh, well, we're all going to go to heaven and be happy and escape the judgments that are coming on the earth. Yes. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Okay. All right. But they're deceived. Very much deceived. So with that, also let me add this. Part 2 will conclude the other verses in Matthew chapter 24 that we have not looked at yet. Mark chapter 13, Luke chapter 17, and chapter 21. We will conclude all those other scriptures because we're going to look at the tribulation and all the other things that are going to happen that we have not looked at yet. Okay? And then the part 3, which is the final segment of this teaching, is going to look at the abomination that makes desolate. We're going to look at it in greater detail than we have looked at before. So with that, I want to say to you, in our language, Yabarakak Yahweh Waya Shamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahweh Panaya Alayak Wayahanak. May Yahweh shine his face upon you and favor you. Yasha'a Yahweh Panaya Alayak Wayasham Lak Shalom. May Yahweh lift up his face, his countenance upon you, and give you peace. Shalom. And with that, I bid you shalom, shalom. May the Most High bless you, and may he keep you until the next time we meet together. And I pray and bestow even more blessings and shalom upon you. All praises to the Most High. Shalom.